And congratulations to all of our newest Eagle Scouts. While this evening is all about the young men and women in the current Eagle Scout class, we also take time to honor an adult, generally a pretty senior adult Eagle Scout, who has lived his life by the Scout Oath and law. By doing so, this person is a role model for our newest Eagle Scouts and an example of what perhaps they can aspire to achieve in their own lives. The National Eagle Scout Association's Distinguished Eagle Scout Award is a prestigious recognition granted by a local council's NESA committee to Eagle Scouts who achieve extraordinary national-level recognition, fame, or eminence within their profession and/or service to the nation, and have a strong record of voluntary service to their community. I had the privilege of chairing a panel of local distinguished and outstanding Eagle Scout Award recipients, where we identified and vetted potential new recipients. I thank all members of this panel, especially those who are here with us tonight, for their hard work in selecting a particularly deserving honoree for this evening. A biography of this year's honoree is in the printed program on your tables, but to share a little bit about the character of Stephen Hess, I would now like to invite his son, Michael, to come to the podium. Michael?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Munson, and Stephen, thank you. And congratulations to this year's Eagle Scouts. In a world of shortcuts, short attention spans, screen addiction, and instant gratification, your accomplishments are particularly impressive. It's a testament to commitment and persistence, increasingly uncommon qualities. Becoming an Eagle Scout is something that still speaks for itself, so congratulations to all of you. I'm not an Eagle Scout. My own persistence lasted about as long as Cubs, maybe early Weeblo. I think I made 2 Pinewood Derby cars successfully, and that's about it. But I'm proud to represent my family in introducing our favorite Eagle. Our Eagle, sitting over there, came to this country as a refugee, served as a naval officer, and built a successful business here in Rochester. Most importantly for tonight's purposes, he has spent decades educating others about the lessons of the Holocaust and the broader topic of anti-Semitism. He serves as a living history book, and his cautionary tale on the dangers of hate and discrimination are more topical now than ever. If you know our dad, you won't be surprised that he wonders how he can possibly merit this ultimate merit badge that he's accepting tonight. Well, Dad, looking at some of the letters of recommendation that the Scouts received for this award, and knowing many of the people and organizations you've worked with personally, I can tell you, a general who commanded all United States Special Operations says that you merit this award. A United States Senator says that you merit this award. An FBI Special Agent in Charge says you merit this award. The leadership of the National World War II Museum and many other cultural, religious, and historic institutions say that you merit this award. I can also say firsthand as an employee that the hundreds of people for whom you provided livelihoods and a great place to work would most certainly say that you merit this award. And the Boy Scouts of America say that you merit this award. Finally, I know that I speak for your family, many of whom traveled to tropical Rochester for this special evening, in saying that you merit this award. Your wife, Sarah, my brothers, Dan, who had to cancel at the last minute due to an illness, and my brother David and my sister Suzanne, your daughters-in-law, Jen, Julie, and Diane, your 7 grandchildren, I had to count that a few times, your twin sister, our Aunt Marion, who coincidentally was born on the same day. Just 4 days from now will be, I can say their age because if you do the math in the program, you'll figure it out. They will be 85 years old in 4 days. So happy birthday to both of you. The twins, as they are lovingly called in our family. And her sons, Mark and John, who also traveled here, my cousins. all the spouses, significant others, friends, and other supporters who are here in person or in spirit. It's a list way too long to cover in the brief amount of time I've been given, so if I didn't name you, don't take it personally. Forgive me for summarizing. In any case, I think I've made the point. It's an honor well deserved. And with that, I am proud to introduce my dad, Stephen Hess.
Go ahead and be seated, and thank you so much, Michael. Your dad has an incredible story, and we are most honored to be with you and your family here this evening to hear it. It's my privilege this evening to be able to now invite, in addition to Stephen to the stage, our co-chairs for this event, Ron Knight and Kip Palmer. Will you come forward to participate in the ceremony? Stephen, on behalf of the Executive Board of the Seneca Waterways Council and the Boy Scouts of America and the National Eagle Scout Association, it is with great pleasure that we present you with the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award in recognition of your life's achievements and specifically dedicating yourself to the cause of education and awareness of the Holocaust and the history of global anti-Semitism. So congratulations, we are exceptionally proud to name this class of 2022 Eagle Scouts in your honor. And then just one more thing. State Senator Jeremy Cooney. Jeremy, are you here this evening with us? Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know if Senator Cooney wants to come forward, but he was very kind in arranging for a proclamation. And we won't read the whole thing.
Hi, Jeremy.
But I think, yeah, Jeremy is a friend of many of us. So this is a proclamation from New York State Senate. And Jeremy, if you want to come forward, go ahead. And would you like to read, Jeremy, would you like to read excerpts of this, or would you like me to do the honors? Okay, well, you can come up and at least shake hands. So the way these things go, it starts with 8 whereases. You have to have enough whereases. Some of these are kind of important and kind of chilling. And I'll read only a couple of them. Whereas Stephen Hess was born in Amsterdam, Holland, on January 14th, 1938, after his German parents were forced to flee Nazi Germany. After the fall of Holland, the Nazis interned Stephen, his twin sister Marion, and their parents in the first the Westerbroek transit camp and later the infamous Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. The family was imprisoned from 1942 until their liberation by the Russians in 1945. And then after miraculously surviving as an intact nuclear family, Stephen and his sister Marion and their parents arrived in the United States in January 1947 aboard the RMS Queen Elizabeth. Mr. Hess began his scouting journey early in his new life in the United States, achieving Eagle Scout in 1955. And then at the bottom of this document, proclaimed, and this is from Senator Cooney, that I, New York State Senator Cooney, honor Stephen Hess for his exemplary service to the community and the state of New York, and be it further proclaimed that a copy of this proclamation be transmitted to Stephen Hess, and that's what we're doing this evening. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Jeremy has got another vote.
You're going to hear things you've heard before because the Scouts are what they are. They're fantastic. So forgive me. That's probably why they put me at the end of the list. Gotta find it. Got it. I would like to mention all of those who recommended or approved this great honor, but that would take all of the 10 minutes allotted to me. I ask your understanding that long list to those of the Seneca Waterways Council: Stephen Hoyt, Anthony Vogel, Ron Knight, Kip Palmer, Peter Pape, Dr. David Munson. I better write Michael because he obviously was involved in this. He managed to keep this a secret from me for over a year. So I'm putting you on the list. Thank you. To the many, many others, I apologize. I just don't know all the members of local scouting and the council. I had my share of sleepless nights when I was informed I was to be the recipient of the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award. Looking at Dr. Munson, I'm glad that a height requirement it's not part of it. I'm sure you agree. When you get old, you get shorter. It's a very high point in my life. Be prepared doesn't begin to cover it. Before I get too full of myself, I wish to stress that we are here to celebrate the soaring Seneca Waterways Council class of 2022 Eagles. This evening belongs to you. After over 8 decades, the few twins in those times, my wife is a physician. She told me there were way fewer twins, but it's true because my sister and I were always called the Hess twins. So, and our age, we are arguably the only still surviving twins of any Nazi camp as well. And of course, the archivist at Belsen confirmed that we are the only living twins of Bergen-Belsen. As you have heard, we were born in Holland of German parents. They fled Germany for the presumed safety of the Netherlands. For those historians, Holland was neutral in World War I, and there was a bad assumption. We were 5 years old in Amsterdam when we were taken from our warm beds in the middle of the night, July 23rd, 1943. We were trucked to a large stockyard with 450 other Jews, without food, without water, without shelter, or a toilet for that matter. A day and a half later, we were shipped to Westerbork, a transit camp. From there, every Tuesday, like clockwork, a train of cattle cars transported an average of 1,000 Jews to their death in the east, mostly in Auschwitz and Sobibor. The Nazi plan was no longer a secret. The murder of every single Jew in every area of Nazi occupation and an influence. With over 100,000 Jews from Holland were deported from Westerbork to the Nazi camp. Less than 5% survived, and that includes us. Finally, our names appeared on a train list for Tuesday, February 15, 1944. There were 773 Jews on that train. The destination was Bergen-Belsen in northern Germany. Over 50,000 Jews died there from starvation, disease, exposure, and brutal labor. Among them, Anne Frank and her sister Margot. The grounds were covered by 10,000 naked, rotting bodies. Before I continue, I'd like my sister, who was part of our story, obviously, to raise her hands. Please let them see. You can stand up. 85. 85 is just a number. Marion and I played with the ever-present lice, slept on planks without blankets, counted bodies in some bizarre children's game, and waited for our parents to come home late from slave labor. Our father, a truly heroic man, was so badly beaten that he was dragged back to the camp one evening, unrecognizable except for his jacket. We did not have toothpaste, soap, or clean running water for nearly a year and a half. Our mother cleaned our teeth with her finger. Toilet paper was unknown to us. We were starved, frozen in the harsh winters, filthy and crawling with lice that spread the deadly typhus disease. On April 10th, 1945, we were put on the last of 3 trains, each one holding about 2,500 sick and dying Jews. We were to be shipped to the Theresienstadt camp for possible exchange or better surrender terms, as the war was clearly coming to an end. Our train never made it. The tracks were repeatedly bombed. We were strafed by Allied pilots, machine gunning a cattle train moving slowly through still Nazi Germany. My father laid on top of me to protect me from the bullets punching through the curved roof. I still well remember that these bullets created shafts of light as they came through the roof with the dust and the dirt swirling in the sunlight. Deadly shards of wood were in the air. My father, skin and bones as he was covering me, bone to bone. It hurt. After 13 days and 12 nights, the train halted at a river's edge, but there was no bridge. But suddenly, we were confronted by the Soviet army. We had been liberated near a small, largely abandoned town called Trevis. About 600 Jews died on the journey or shortly thereafter. Many had been buried next to the railroad tracks when possible. Unburied dead remained in the wagons next to us until the train made another stop and then were buried. At that time, we spent 8 weeks in this wonderful village in the sense that it was abandoned, there was room, and it was warm. Stealing what we needed, blessed by the warm, healing weather, some of us recovering. Eventually we were taken by American Army trucks and later by trains to Holland. We had survived the unsurvivable. But upon arrival, we were imprisoned among Nazi SS and Dutch Nazi collaborators because our parents were German and listed as suspicious. At age 7, Marion and I were equally listed as suspicious. After 16 days, we were released. Our outraged father took the matter up with the Dutch government, which reluctantly issued a letter of apology, but did not return the few goods we had and which they had taken. We emigrated to America a year and a half later, a difficult task. We were not welcome. Arriving in New York on January 1, 1947, we were skinny, timid, and spoke only Dutch. In short order, we were enrolled in the closest public school. At 9, with less than a year of schooling between the end of the war and our immigration, a handful of English words. My first was chewing gum and Hershey bar that we begged from the American truck drivers. We had a handful of English words, and we were arbitrarily placed in the 3rd grade. After a year, we never spoke Dutch again. We were Americans in the best country in the world. That spirit seems to have not there so much, but I remember it well. But I had a problem. I had not the slightest interest in sports, nor the slightest ability. My instinct was to duck at any and all round objects coming my way. Worse, as a young kid in 50s America, no sports meant no friends, which led me with some trepidation to join a scout troop. It was a turning point in my life. If I couldn't play sports, there were other things I could do, and I discovered I could do some things well. I was welcomed. It still gets to me. I suddenly had a few friends. I started going to 10 Mile River Scout camps. If I couldn't throw a ball, I was encouraged to work on swimming, and I was good at it. I was proud to start earning merit badges. After 2 summers, I became a Life Scout. But Eagle seemed out of reach. I was cheered on to a few more sit-ups, urged to get my chin over the pull-up bar, yelled at, no doubt, but always encouraged. In 1955, Mrs. Robert Wagner, the wife of the mayor of New York City, pinned on my Eagle Medal. Years later, at our college graduation, my sister pinned on my Navy ensign bars. I then proudly served on active duty for the rest of the 4 years. A great experience. I highly recommend it. And in many ways, scouting was the best possible preparation. I became aware that what made scouting and the military so rewarding and important is that both are true meritocracies. Not perfect, but ahead of the times. You are judged by who you are, your loyalty, your reliability, and how well you do your job, and for love of country. Where you come from, what you look like, an accent, all of this is of no consideration to your success. After the Navy, it was time to figure out a career. I worked for some years for a large photographic equipment company in New York. Then opportunity knocked. I heard it. I moved to Rochester and bought a small photographic equipment company. I had 5 employees. 2 decades later, we had much closer to 100, including Michael, and an international reputation for outstanding products and a highly ethical business. In 1998, I had an offer to sell. It was an offer I couldn't refuse, and I didn't. Many years later, in May 1985, many years earlier, in May 1985, President Reagan, under the pressure of the German government for political reasons, visited the Bitburg Cemetery, and it was a military cemetery where American soldiers are buried from the Battle of the Bulge, but they were also graves of the criminal and murderous SS. The visit caused a firestorm of anger and protest in the US, not just among the Jews, but the American public in general. It was a huge mistaken judgment. It also awakened my memories and my thoughts. I wrote an angry, scathing letter to the editor of the DNC. I certainly had the credentials, which resulted in several requests to speak to schools as well as to adult audiences. In the past nearly 40 years, I've had the privilege of speaking and teaching in many parts of the United States. The next one by Zoom is next week in Laramie, Wyoming, wherever that is. They wanted me today, but I told them I was going to be kind of busy. So it's on the 17th. I have given talks to a high school in Laramie for every year for 3 years. There is no synagogue in Laramie. There are very few Jews. I don't know, frankly, if there are any. Most of the students have never known one. The story of the Holocaust is an eye-opener to them, and they respond with great interest and a desire to learn more. It's really heartwarming, so I have a promise to them as long as I live, to be there every year, but by Zoom. Maybe one day I'll hop an airplane, if I can find it. At age 85, you hope to have some hard-won wisdom to pass on. I like the expression, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Life is uncertain. Life is moments of great joy, love, success, winning, feeling on top of the world, as you do and you should right now. But life is also disappointment, loss, illness, bad outcomes, at times tragedy. You can't be prepared for much of it. But what you can be is grounded, level-headed, supportive, hardworking, determined, respectful, polite, a good, decent, and loyal human being. That sounds a lot like an Eagle Scout, and that's exactly what it is. The bad stuff life throws at you, you just have to deal with as best you can. That is what makes being an Eagle Scout so significant and meaningful and admirable. It's not the merit badges. Oldest one in the room, saved it from 1955, got to 21. It's all about molding you into a valuable, can-do, competent, reliable individual. It is what an Eagle Scout is all about. No one will ever ask you, the merit badges are wonderful, but no one will ever ask you to make a fire by rubbing two sticks together. But an Eagle Scout is a lifelong partner, whispering confidence and encouragement into your ear. It sets you apart and above. Scouts honor. Congratulations, Seneca Waterways Council, Eagle Scouts, class of 2022. And I thank you.